We asked the governor to sit and chat with us at a time and place of his choosing. He didn't accept. So we showed up to ask him today. Governor, why is it okay for you to take money from a felon?
And you know that the way you frame that is going to lead me to ask you to flesh
Your
that
office is aware of my question. I've tried to schedule time to talk with you about
this. I don't know what you're...
PG&E was convicted of 6 federal felonies in 2016. After that, you took more than $200,000 to help get elected. How should people trust you to be running the show to come up with the solutions?
I wish you luck with whatever you're working on, but that's a strange question.
Well, I know it's a strange question. It's a strange time, but there's a convicted federal felon making campaign donations in this state to our duly elected leaders, including the speaker, who took almost $9,000.
Okay. Yeah, look, we're trying to focus on the
It's issue. A serious question. You don't think people want an answer to that?
So Gavin Newsom just cannot catch a break. It is honestly pretty hilarious to see because everyone knows he had in the month of January probably one of the single worst months that you could possibly have as a politician, between the California wildfires and everyone, including some Democrats, starting to call him out over his blatant incompetence and mismanagement of the state. He went into January assuming he's probably the shoo-in to be the 2028 Democrat presidential nominee. And now he's leaving that month in such a tailspin that his political future is incredibly uncertain, not the position that you want to be in. But of course, if you're Gavin Newsom, you're probably happy right now that the negative PR is starting to die down. People are not talking about you as much. It is a new month, so hopefully he's thinking to himself he can turn the page, as Tim Walz's wife once said in a very ridiculous speech. Except the issue for Gavin Newsom is that Donald Trump's not going to allow that to happen, right? Just as Gavin Newsom thought, okay, I'm home free, people are ignoring me, people are not talking about me, Trump announced that he wants his administration to investigate Gavin Newsom, particularly investigating the state of California and this ridiculous high-speed rail infrastructure project. And as someone who, as many of you know, as a native Californian, I grew up in that state. I witnessed this. I'm actually very happy. I feel almost like mentioned in this segment from Trump because this is an issue I'm so passionate about. I watched my entire childhood and teenage life as this so-called high-speed rail, this train to nowhere as we call it, never got built. And now the Trump administration is saying he wants to investigate Newsom and the California government. Why is that so bad? Because any investigation into this high-speed rail, it doesn't have to be that deep. You're not uncovering secrets. You look at page 1, you will find massive mismanagement, massive incompetence, and likely massive corruption. But nonetheless, we'll explain in a second what is kind of behind this whole high-speed rail thing. But first, here is President Trump talking about how he now wants to investigate Gavin Newsom over something new. Check it out.
One of the things I want to investigate rapidly, because I've never seen anything to this extent, the train that's being built between Los Angeles and San Francisco is the worst managed project I think I've ever seen, and I've seen some of the worst. Billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars over budget. In fact, I read where you could take every single person that was going to go on the train and get the finest limousine service in the world and take them back and forth with limousines, and you'd have hundreds of billions of dollars left over. It is the worst thing, and we're going to start an investigation of that because it's not possible. I built for a living, and I built on time, on budget. It's impossible that something could cost that much. And now it's not even going to San Francisco, and it's not going to Los Angeles. They made it much shorter. So now it's at little places way away from San Francisco and way away from Los Angeles. No, we're going to start a big investigation on that because I've never seen anything like it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. The worst overruns that there have ever been in the history of our country.
Yeah, exactly. It's not possible. As someone who is very passionate about this high-speed rail issue in California, it is not possible. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the content, please do us a big favor. Make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe if you are new. You subscribing is the #1 way to ensure that we can keep doing these videos, including the videos calling out Gavin Newsom, because just because the wildfire stuff has kind of died down in a sense, we're still going to keep talking about this. And with that said, okay, so for people who are unfamiliar, and I'm sure many of you guys sort of may know about this even outside of California because it became a national news story because it was so ridiculous. But here is the context that I want to give you. So essentially, what this is supposed to be. is they wanted to build a high-speed light rail between, again, LA and San Francisco, as Trump brought up there. And to make a very long story short, nothing is getting done, right? The thing is billions of dollars over budget. Actually, Trump is correct there. Hundreds of billions of dollars. And this photograph right here that you're seeing on your screen basically sums it up. This is what we call the bridge to nowhere, right? They built this. It goes nowhere, whatever. But a piece of context I also want to give in this regard, guys, is the source. The reason why they're trying to build this high-speed rail stems back to a ballot proposition that passed, guys, back in 2008. 2008 is when they first voted the decision to build this high-speed rail. And as you can see, according to that original text of the ballot proposition, this was supposed to allocate $9.95 billion. We'll say $10 billion was all it was supposed to cost to build this train from LA to San Francisco. The budget now is about $130 billion, and it's nowhere close to done. Okay. They began building this in about, I believe, 2014, 2015. The progress has basically been zero. As you can see right here on your screen, this is what they've done. Again, the bridge to nowhere. But I want to contextualize that timeline to some of you guys because, okay, just look at me right here, right? See me? I'm 21 years old, by the way. In 2008, when that vote passed to build this the high-speed light rail, I was in kindergarten. I was in kindergarten when they decided they were going to start building this rail. When the construction began, I was in middle school. Me. That is right. That's why I'm so passionate about this issue. That's why, I know this so well. And that's why I can vehemently and 100% say, yes, okay, this whole thing is a massive corruption scandal. And that's why I'm saying my kind of central assertion here is if you look into this, this is going to be much more bad news for Gavin Newsom because the whole thing is objectively terrible here, as you can see in this article from the New York Post. California is taking heat for celebrating the completion of a high-speed rail bridge. So apparently they celebrated the bridge that clearly goes nowhere, part of a $100 billion boondoggle project. Critics, including Tesla founder Elon Musk and Dogecoin creator Billy Marcus, are ripping the California High-Speed Rail Authority after it boasted about the completion of a Fresno River viaduct, a mere sliver of the state's long-delayed bullet train attempting to link San Francisco to Los Angeles. For context, guys, again, this whole thing started when I was in middle school. This high-speed train was supposed to be done years ago. And from my recollection, they basically canceled this for a certain time. They almost gave up on it. And now all they've built is basically like a train to Bakersfield in Fresno. Okay? It's also worth noting for those of you guys who have no connection to the state of California that you're involved in this as well, because apparently the federal government also gave money to the California High-Speed Rail Authority to build this train in the sum right here, as you can see, of $20 million to build the bridge, build the train, obviously, to nowhere. Okay, just utterly ridiculous, utterly hilarious. And guys, it's not exactly some type of mystery, some type of big question mark as to why this train never got built. It is mass incompetence, it is mass bureaucracy, and it's just simple, plain old corruption between the government contracts and the NGOs who just basically take the money, do nothing with it, and it's kind of one big Ponzi scheme between them and the California Democrat politicians. That's how everything works in California, right? This is exactly why, for instance, the initiative to end homelessness spectacularly failed because they gave it to all these like third-party charities who said they were going to clean up the homelessness, and what did they do? They just paid themselves, obviously. And again, it should not surprise anyone who is from this state because they don't build anything in California. I'll tell you honestly a really funny story here before we move on from this topic. When I first moved to Florida from California, one of the things I was shocked to see, I'm not even making this up, this is a true story, is, you drive past a part on the highway that is a construction site, right? You got a lane closed or something, there's cones up, it's a construction zone. I was absolutely shocked to see in one of my first days in Florida, at the construction zone, they actually had workers working. Like construction workers were actually there. I was like, wow, this is a real thing. They have workers at the site. And then a couple months later, I'm driving on the same highway and newsflash, the construction is done. Like the road is actually paved. They actually did it. I kid you not. Coming from California, I was like, this is real life. This is how the world actually functions. They when they work on a road, they finish it. There's actually workers doing it. I was shocked, but it also summarizes, right, exactly how things work in California. And considering that the Trump administration is very keen on cleaning up all forms of government waste, inefficiency, and just pure corruption, it should not come as a surprise, given the fact that California is asking us now for a massive bailout, that Trump is saying, well, hold on a second. Let's look into some of the ways you are spending your money, because it doesn't really seem right, does it?
And one more thing before I wrap up, because I do want to get to these meetings and I will see you all at the EO signing later this afternoon. I would just say that you brought to mind California and North Carolina, who continue to be on our hearts, and the president and this administration are committed to ensuring that these individuals get the funding that they need. And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this. But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything. And in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them. This president will continue to put Americans first. And I think the successes of this week so far speak to that. And it's only Wednesday. So I'll see you guys later this week, and we'll see you this afternoon. Thank you very much.
You know, the really funny thing is, despite all of the waste in the federal budget, if you really go through California's state budget, California's might actually be worse. Okay, you know, that's a really big fish you're trying to compete against, you know, the federal U.S. budget. But I don't know, California probably gives it a run for its money, if we're being completely honest there. Now, guys, you may think the trouble is over for Gavin Newsom. Like, okay, they're going to investigate him over the high-speed rail project, and that's probably going to expose a lot of bad things about his incompetence and very likely corruption there. But it doesn't stop there, because now there's actually another scandal pertaining to Gavin Newsom and these California wildfires that stems back to his good old relationship with PG&E, which is, if you don't know, one of the major power companies in California that, you know, basically was one of his top donors throughout his political campaign. Now, of course, back in 2018, you may have heard of the PG&E fire, right? This was a massive fire that killed like 85 people in Paradise, California, and it was because of the blatant negligence of PG&E, that power company, right? It was a massive electrical fire, and ironically, Gavin Newsom actually tried to blame it on climate change, like not even joking about that, which is absolutely ridiculous. But what does that have to do with the wildfires now? Again, well, basically, Gavin Newsom back then gave a bailout to PG&E, and he did not really do anything to actually crack down on the irresponsibility of the power companies. And now we are finding in 2025 that at least one of the LA fires that happened in the month of January was caused by power line equipment. This time it is SoCal Edison, as you can see right here. According to USA Today, SoCal Edison has said that equipment likely caused the Hearst fire. And how does that connect to Gavin Newsom? How does that connect to his historically shady relationship with a lot of financial money going to him with the power companies of California? Well, here is a great video from James Lee on Twitter that explains it a lot better than I can. So take a listen. And again, this is why I say Gavin Newsom is far from being out of hot water yet when it comes to people holding him accountable. And here's just another example that has come up ever since these wildfires have dissipated.
So it looks like utility companies are responsible for starting most of the wildfires in California. And it looks like that was the case again in the recent Eden fires in LA. So guess what Gavin Newsom did when he became governor of California? He passes a law shielding utility companies from wildfire liability. And here is all of the tea.
Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, California's largest utility company, is responsible for igniting tens, if not hundreds of fires. And in 2018, their neglected equipment sparked the Camp Fire, the deadliest wildfire in the state's history. 85 lives lost, the town of Paradise reduced to ash, and over 30,000 residents displaced. And what did Gavin Newsom do? Well, during his 2018 campaign for governor, Newsom took $208,000 in donations from PG&E. And when asked by reporters how he could possibly hold PG&E accountable given their financial support of his campaign, Newsom dismissed the question as, quote-unquote, strange.
PG&E was convicted of 6 federal felonies in 2016. After that, you took more than $200,000 to help get elected. How should people trust you to be running the show to come up with the solution?
I wish you luck with whatever you're working on, but that's a strange question.
Is it that strange of a question? And when pressed on whether he would return the money, he said unequivocally, no.
Have you reconsidered giving the money back to PG&E that they contributed to your campaign?
No, my actions, if the suggestion is somehow contributions have changed actions, look what I just passed, look what I just signed.
Newsom was referring to AB 1054, a bill he signed into law in 2019 that looked like he was holding PG&E accountable, but in reality, the bill gave PG&E everything they wanted. The legislation introduced what they call safety certificates, except these safety certificates didn't actually require utility companies like PG&E to make their equipment safer, only to have a plan to make it safer. The law also allowed PG&E to tap into a $21 billion state insurance fund, half paid for by taxpayers, while shielding the company's shareholders from liability for fires their negligence caused. You see, he's clever because on the surface, it appeared that he's introduced an additional safety mechanism here in these safety certificates. But in reality, he's actually making things easier for the utility companies. Former members of the California Public Utilities Commission, the body responsible for granting these safety certificates, have alleged that Newsom's administration pressured them to rubber stamp approvals.
It's just insane. It is absolutely insane. This guy's one of the biggest sleazeballs in all of politics, but people think, oh, he's slick, he has nice hair, therefore we can trust him. It's ridiculous. It is off the charts, insane corruption, and maybe we could all turn a blind eye to it if we're not for the fact that these power companies in California, because of their negligence, are causing these fires time and time again. And what did Gavin Newsom do? On the surface, he said he was going to hold them accountable, but in reality, he allowed them to circumvent actually having to improve anything. He shielded them from liability, and meanwhile has the California taxpayers paying for the insurance of these power companies repeatedly causing the wildfires. And you may say, Vince, that's an old scandal from 2018. Why is it coming up right now? Well, because again, in 2025, it was revealed that at least one, and we might find out more soon, even more than that, of these fires was caused by failures of electrical equipment coming from the power companies of California. In this case, maybe Gavin Newsom is a little bit off the hook because it's not PG&E, but considering that the law he passed, due to the fact that he was taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations from PG&E, is literally the law that, again, shielded them from liability, shielded the shareholders while making the taxpayers pay for it, and also did not really require these companies to actually make their equipment safer. And then what happens? We find out that at least one of these massive LA wildfires was indeed caused by the power grid. Very interesting. I don't know. All I'm saying, Gavin Newsom, buddy, is it's not looking good for you. It's not looking good for your career. I'm sure in his infinite arrogance, he's still going to try to run in 2028. And a lot of Democrats will think, oh, he's a good candidate. He's a straight white guy, because they still think that's why Kamala lost. But I'm just saying, you better be really careful in running this guy and nominating this guy, because there's a lot of dirty baggage that we can talk about here. And I'm going to keep bringing it up. I think it's relevant because this guy clearly is trying to be the president, and this is what we're dealing with. Okay, we got to bring this to public for everyone to know. So with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.